All right, so before I even play a single second of the vocals to this, I'm sorry, I'm not a vocalist. Honestly, if I were working on somebody else's project and these were the vocals they handed me, I would probably demand they retrack them. You know, same for those acoustic guitars. Really, that's going to be the best and easiest fix for the acoustic guitars for the just kind of timing discrepancies. And especially for these vocals, for the pitch and timing discrepancies. I'm the only vocalist I've got, so I'll work with it. Apologies in advance. All right, let's hear them all together first, at least the verse. Oh, and I have them all turned down. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is start grouping these, because that's a lot of vocal tracks and trying to do things individually and trying to manage where they're at. So I want to, let's insert a new track. Keep doing that in the wrong place, but I will call this vocal lead folder. All right, so I have a feeling I'm probably going to use the low vocals as kind of the lead vocals, and then the higher vocals as kind of more of accents and just to add interest. So vocal lead folder, let's make him a folder. And let's make these two guys a member of that folder. All right, so now I want to insert another track. And let's call it vocal backing folder. I don't know. So we're going to make him a folder. And vocal high 2 is going to be the last in that folder. All right, so now I've got these oohs and ahs. So let's group those together. Let's insert a new track. Well, I'm going to call this vocal ooh folder. Okay. Do I want to go as far as to making these, you know, more folders within folders? I don't know. I don't really enjoy that a whole lot. Folders are handy to an extent. You can overuse them, I think, and once they get nested a couple layers deep, it just gets hard to manage. So I'm going to just keep them a single layer. All right, so I've got the highs and lows. Okay, so yeah, let's put those all in the same folder. Make that a folder, and I will make you the last in the folder. Okay. So I've got everything turned down. I'm going to kind of switch polarity here on these. I'm going to turn the folders all the way down, and then I'm going to turn what's in them all the way up. Turn backup vocal down. Okay. And lead vocal as well. Okay, so I guess let's do the lead vocal first. And again, I apologize about these, but this is what we're working with. But I'll slowly bring up that lead vocal.
Incomprehensible, passing right between us, all right between us.
All right, so yeah, you can hear it's two performances, just doubled. They're both pan center, and they're both at the same volume. I think that sounds a little too heavily doubled for what I'm going for at this point. So I think later in the song, I might want to, I think I kind of want it to sound like once things kind of build up, I might want that kind of conspicuously doubled sound. But for this part where it's a little more sparse, no drums, no bass, I have a feeling I'm just going to want that to sound a little more singular and not doubled. So what I'm going to do, since I know I'm going to have a different setting later, I'm going to add an automation lane. So I'm going to click on this little guy here where it says track envelopes and automation. And I'm going to select volume. So that gives me an extra little track here. And honestly, I'm not too crazy about the way Reaper handles this, but here we go. So you can now see there's this automation lane. I'm gonna clear this stuff out of the way. And so this, as I hover over it, now I can, if I drag the bar up, it'll get louder. If I drag the bar down, it'll get quieter. But I have a feeling what I'm gonna want here, I'm gonna hold down Shift and click, and I'm gonna create a couple of points on this. And I am going to grab one of those points and drag it down some. And let's make it a pretty abrupt change here. All right, so I'm gonna listen to this and then adjust the volume of what I hear based on the level after this automation point.
Size immeasurable, incomprehensible.
Oh, the doubling's not very good on that part.
Size immeasurable.
I mean, even hitting different notes, yeah, these vocals need to be retracked. I wouldn't work with this normal. I wouldn't suggest working with something like this, but yeah.
Size immeasurable.
And then I think I even want more of the double. Here, let's zoom in a little. I think I want more of the double sound even as early as this. So let's drag him up and let's listen to that.
Size immeasurable, incomprehensible.
Yeah, you can hear it a little bit more.
Incomprehensible.
Okay, yeah, I kind of like it right there. So I'll probably leave it there for the rest of this verse. Let's go, and you know, it's just kind of killing me to hear such a dry vocal, especially when it's my own and when it's not done very well. So as soon as possible, I want to get some reverb on these vocals. So as a group, I'm gonna pick the vocal lead folder here, since it contains both of those lead vocals. I'm gonna add a send. I'm gonna send that to that same plate reverb. And let's hear what that sounds like. Too much. Way too much.
Incomprehensible.
Yeah, that's, you know, very subtle. You can just hear it. It just kind of smooths things out and just kind of spreads them out a little over the stereo field.
Incomprehensible.
All right. And again, let's get some of those backing vocals in there. Let me scoot the automation lane up. And on the backing vocals, all right, yeah. So let's bring those in a little bit here, and let's see.
Incomprehensible.
And I want them just kind of barely in the background for the most part, but
size immeasurable. Incomprehensible.
So when I sang the backing vocals, I stood a little bit farther from the mic. For the lead vocals, I was really close. I was singing kind of low, and it was low in my range and quiet, so really close to the mic. For the backing vocals, a little louder because I was just had a little bit more breath behind that range. So I backed up from the mic a little bit. That does two things. It helps even out the gain. You know, you don't have to go turning knobs to adjust for the difference in volume when you sing more powerfully. Versus when you're singing quiet. But also it introduces just a little bit more of the room into it, and it just kind of gives a little bit of distance in sound, just the physical distance between your mouth and the microphone, just the little things it picks up close versus what it doesn't pick up far away, and then the things it picks up far away, which is mainly the environment around you. So I kind of like to, you know, that's a pretty good tool. And for something like a backing vocal that's supposed to sit and be just there as barely a support, yeah, I'll back up off the mic a little bit. So it already has just at least a teeny bit of ambience added to it. But I want these to really be kind of sound like they're at the end of a hall or something. So I want to send those to the plate reverb. And so for backing folder, I want to send those to the plate reverb. And I want just a little bit more of the reverb than I had on the lead vocal.
Size immeasurable.
Too much. Way too much.
Incomprehensible. Passing right between us. All right between us.
All right, okay, yeah, I think that just kind of helps them just sound like background vocals a little more. Although I would like to hear a little bit more of their pitch and a little bit less of the sibilance. So let's do two things. First, let's add an EQ to those backing vocals. And what I really want to do is knock off some of the highs just to give them just a little bit more distance. So here, let's listen to them again. And I'm going to go to band number 4, which is defaults to a high shelf. I'm going to keep it at a high shelf.
Size immeasurable. Incomprehensible. Passing right between us.
Yeah, there we go. So now I get more of the pitch of what the backing vocals are doing and less of the sibilance and all the things that trigger that reverb to be a little more conspicuous. Now the reverb sounds a little smoother, the backing vocals sit farther back, and I just took a high shelf and chopped off a pretty huge amount of high end. But that actually did what I wanted it to do here.
Size immeasurable. Incomprehensible.
Okay, one other thing. So just on that very first line, I think having both backing vocals come in at the same time, maybe just a little overbearing. So let's go somewhere over here actually, first let's try panning them. Let's see what happens if we spread them out a little bit, because both of these vocal parts, these backing vocal parts, are pan dead center right now. So let's get those out like really wide. Let's get them maybe 50%. We'll start. Oh, this pan knob's so bad. All right. 50% left for that one. Let's go 50% right for this guy. Let's hear that.
Incomprehensible.
Actually, I kind of like that.
Passing right between us.
Yeah, so they're not so far apart that the pitch discrepancies, play as big of a role. They're in the middle enough to where the pitch discrepancies kind of give it more of a chorusy effect rather than a guy that can't sing very well effect. The reverb helps with that, and then dialing off the high end, the backing vocals kind of helps with that too. So now it just kind of sounds like two pretty close pitches kind of mushing together in the middle a little bit. So that kind of eases that. But honestly, I think it may be just a little too strong in that very first line.
Size immeasurable.
So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go right here and, well, actually, you know what? If they're still sticking out, let's compress them. Because these are backing vocals after all. And I kind of like, so yeah, our free compressors, do reacomp again. Now what I know, to make something kind of sound a little bit more in the background, I am going to put the attack really fast. I don't want it 0, but maybe, yeah, 1 millisecond or something. Geez, that's a touchy dial, so let's go 1 millisecond. Release, I don't really care. I might slow the release down quite a bit, just so we get a little bit more of a leveling effect rather than it clamping down and then getting out of the way. If it's going to clamp down, let's have it kind of ease out of it for backing vocals. All right. And actually on that EQ, I might go ahead and just because I know that vocal mic just is so linear and has a pretty strong bass response on it. So I think, again, I'm probably gonna high pass it. That says 100 hertz. For the high vocals, that's probably not such a bad thing. Yeah, here, let's see. Let's just see how that sounds.
Incomprehensible.
Yeah, I don't feel like that damaged it at all, but just in case there's any low-end rumble, in case the air conditioning was on when I did one of those takes or two of those takes, once we start compressing it, we're going to bring that noise floor up. And so having those frequencies out of the way, not interfering with the compression that we want to set, but also not interfering with adding too much just noise, because that noise does stack track over track over track, and you'd be amazed at once you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 vocal tracks. Every bit of noise your microphone picks up, or every time your air conditioner's on, or low frequency rumble happens, that stacks up 10 times over in this mix. So just kind of a bit of a protection. Shave off the low end on things that don't need it. The kick drum needs it. The bass guitar needs it. So I might go and revisit how low I have that filter set. I just don't want it to be rumbly. But then all these mic tracks, I'm not doing super sub-bass things in these vocal tracks. So might as well shave that off just to make sure that things stay kind of wide open for all the stuff that wants to happen underneath it. Things tend to build up in that frequency range, from 80 to 100 or maybe 200 hertz or so, and it just, that stuff stacks up track over track over track. Yeah, so we got some of that low end out of it. Didn't seem to damage it at all. All right. Oh yeah, the compressor. I got Recomp on here, never dialed down, so let's have a listen. Dial down the threshold until it does what I want.
Incomprehensible. Passing right between us.
Oh, okay, that's because I have the ratio set at nothing, at 1. So with these, I'll do like a 5 to 1, somewhere in there. Little aggressive.
Incomprehensible. Passing right between us. All right between us.
Okay. Let me back up and...
Size immeasurable.
Yeah, that made him a bit quieter, so...
Incomprehensible. Passing right between us.
Hear it again.
Size immeasurable. Incomprehensible.
Yeah, see, I like right where those are at. All they're doing is just kind of adding a texture to the lead vocal to make it just kind of sound bigger and better. It doesn't sound like two other people are standing right beside me singing right into the mic. It sounds really subtle. It just supports what the lead vocal's doing. That's what I'm going after right here, especially with that sparse instrumentation. Even subtle changes to the vocals are going to have a little bit more impact. So yeah, I like where that's at. Okay. All right, so we've listened the hell out of that piece of it. Now that we've got the lead vocals in, let's listen to what these ooh and ah tracks are. And they're just there not to be there in the verses. They're there just for these kind of instrumental parts, which up in the labels here I called interludes. I didn't know what to call them. It wasn't a chorus. I didn't have any lyrics for a chorus. These are just kind of throwaway lyrics. So let's see what the oohs and ahs are doing. Let's get down to there. All right. right, so it's 2 low voices and 2 high voices. In what I heard right there, the way everything's going on, I thought the high voices were too high. I want to hear the low voices more in there. So I think the 2 high voices, let me just control select them both. And let me play it again while I turn those 2 down. There we go. That's a little more what I'm after. So, and again with those, I want them to wash into the background a little bit more. So let's do kind of the same things. Let's add some reverb to them. Whoops. I'm gonna send it to the plate reverb. Let's hear it again. I'm not sure what I think about that. And now that electric guitar on the right is kind of starting to annoy me more than anything else. All right, you know, there's a lot of breath noise in there. I don't have the biggest set of pipes, so a lot of breaths, but I am still, even though it's gonna kind of make the breath stand out more, which I don't want, I'm gonna compress those again with a really fast attack, and yeah, maybe a slower release. With these ones, yeah, I thought that 5:1 ratio in this compressor sounded pretty good, so I'll go to 5:1. High pass RMS. Oh, high pass reminds me, before I compress it, let's, because I could hear it was just a little boomy. I want to hear the low of that kind of baritone voice, but I don't want it really to sound boomy. So let's stick with the low shelf. I'm going to put the EQ before the compressor. There we go. And yeah, I'll stick with the low shelf. And yeah, frequency at 100. I'm going to turn the bandwidth down, which here, if I adjust the gain, you can see what that does. With a lower bandwidth, it just makes it closer to a low cut. And as you ease out the bandwidth, it makes it more of just kind of a linear low shelf. So I don't want it quite as shelfy, but not quite a low cut either. So let's hear that. Okay, all right, not so bad, not so bad. Recomp, yeah, let's turn the threshold down and let's compress that. Didn't quite get it there. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for. It really kind of evens out the kind of accents to it. I don't really care for those accents for this particular thing. I want them a little ethereal sounding, a little more like a chorale or more like a choir. So yeah, I think those 2 low ones I'll probably keep pan center. The 2 high ones, let's pan those out to the sides a little bit. Let's get those maybe 40 or 50% out. I'll do them 50. Whoops. I panned the wrong one. Double click and he goes back to center. It's this guy I was after. So let's take him about 50. Oh, come on, pan knob. Don't get too wacky on me. And the other high one, we'll get him 50% out the other way. Okay, let's hear that. I'll turn them up just a little. I'll turn those up just a little bit. I don't want them too up front. right, yeah, yeah. So in that second verse, I kind of want the vocals to stick out just a little bit more, the backing vocals. So on the vocal backing, let me turn on automation. I'll pick volume, and that gives me his lane. We'll have to make that much, much bigger. There we go. I'll give him a couple of points here, couple points over here. All right, so let's just raise him up here. I'm a little clumsy with this thing and Reaper. It's hard to get it right, and I don't really like it a whole lot. But let's start listening here.
Turning day into night, blacken everything, the sight is beautiful.
Maybe a little too much.
We had better hide, better run and hide.
Yeah, I like it there a little bit better. Okay, all right, cool, cool. Well, holy crap, we actually mixed some vocals. Like I said, this is not exactly ideal vocal tracks to be working with, but that Behringer C1 does a good enough job that I really didn't have to mess with the EQ too much on the vocals. I just kind of let it ride where it was because it has that kind of natural hump at the high end that kind of gives it a little bit of air, keeps it from sounding too dead. And I did most of the other adjustments just on the low end, and then with compression, just to kind of distance things or smooth them over, round them off. But having that vocal hump on the C1, stacking track over track over track, would have been a little annoying on this many vocal tracks. So with those backing tracks, I rolled that off and then some. It's a pretty exaggerated high-end cut on those. And with the kind of oohs and ahs, I just kind of used reverb and compression to kind of tame some of what you would have heard out of that high end, that kind of air breathiness, that super high end, like in the 8 to 10 to 12K. That just kind of crispy sounding. It sounds pretty good for a lead vocal because it just gives it some presence, some air, some just kind of breath around it. It makes it sound present in the mix without being overbearing. But those backing vocals, yeah, we didn't really care to have that kind of thing. So we used some fast attacks and slower releases on our compressors to kind of distance the backing vocals. Use a little bit of EQ to distance the backing vocals, and some reverb to distance the backing vocals. So in a kind of power ballad like this, yeah, I think that's going to work out.